Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks come in late and land a 2024 prospect from the state of Texas. This is a guy that I like a lot in Aaron Flowers, and it was such a wild recruiting trail storyline. Like crystal ball to Oklahoma, then all the crystal balls were going to USC late last night, and then I wake up this morning, all the crystal balls are going to Oregon. Dan Lanning comes in and swoops up a phenomenal safety in the 2024 class. Now, before we get into the player and talk a little bit about what this means for the program, take a look at 2023. I just want to say thank you to you guys. There's just been so much support on the recruiting trail, whether it's our spring previews, and you guys have just shown an absolutely awesome amount of support. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys. And Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. Dan Lanning, getting it going on the recruiting trail for the Oregon Ducks.
It's not the first time you've seen these Oregon Ducks come in real late onto these processes and take guys. Yeah. I'm thinking of Mateo Uiagalelei. That felt like a kind of out of left field ending up in Oregon.
Peyton Bowen, too.
Peyton Bowen is the one that comes to mind, and they obviously didn't quite close the deal in a sense because he did end up going to Oklahoma.
Wild story.
They did take the commitment late, and this is – I mean, these are fun wins. Like the guys you kind of know are going to go to the school you like. That's fun in itself. But yeah, they're
out of nowhere. It was like Oklahoma first couple weeks ago, and then USC got a lot of traction. And then I wake up this morning, and all of a sudden, like Oregon Ducks, Dan Lanning comes in late. What I want to talk about with Aaron Flowers specifically, when you take a look at this Oregon Ducks team, is I think when you look at college football and what you're trying to do, you want to get as much speed on the field and also be able to stop the run. Aaron Flowers, and we're going to just turn on a little bit of his highlights to kind of tell you guys what I mean, is a guy who is perfect for that. When you watch his film, you see a bunch of things, but the best thing he's going to do is this dude is phenomenal in the tackle box. I don't know if y'all follow much of the 2023 NFL draft, but Brian Branch from Alabama, another one like this, but takes on blocks extremely well and is an absolute bruiser tackler as well. What else is going to kind of flash out at you when I was watching his film and highlights is that he's also very comfortable and has really good ball skills. But where he excels and what he's going to fit right into Dan Lanning's scheme is just a versatile star position player who you can walk up into the box. He can blitz. He can be a force in the run game. But also, you check out this film here, very comfortable playing that cornerback role and tracking the ball downfield. Nice long speed, makes plays on footballs. Dill, like the complete prospect when it comes to safeties here.
Yeah, and Oregon's going to need help there. Obviously, they gave up a lot of passing yards this year, and to stop the teams they play in what the Pac-12 is going forward. I mean, you got to be able to beat teams like Washington, and God, it's hard to know where Oregon's going to be in the next 5 years. But I guess anyone has to be able to stop the pass, and Oregon really didn't do that last year. And you heard it from Kirby Smart. Dan Lanning needs to get his guys in because as good of a coach as he is, he needs more horsepower, and so far he seems to be doing it.
And again, you see the ball skills on that last clip there. He kind of checks all the boxes, and I don't know, Oregon fans, like what he reminds me a little bit of from this Oregon team is Jamal Hill. But I think he's a better version in terms of covering. You're hearing all the traction about Jamal Hill, who I like, maybe coming in and playing that weak side linebacker role. I think that might be a good option for him because, quite frankly, his coverage skills maybe not quite there. Aaron Flowers is a guy that you see his ability to play the football and have that long speed to play in space on the back end, but he's also a phenomenal player around the box, and that is so, so important. When you go look at the Georgia defenses, like they had those guys who were speedy around the box and do a lot of different things. I think Aaron Flowers fits that mold to a T.
And everybody who played on those Georgia teams was ultra physical, and I think that's what Dan Lanning's defense he wants. He wants fast. He wants physical. And again, when you look at those highlights and kind of what this guy brings, a bigger, good sized guy, 6 foot 190 is a good sized player for a junior in high school. Essentially.
Yeah.
So you kind of suspect he might be in that 210 range, and if he can move and be athletic and play with that smooth ability, it's like that's exactly what Dan Lanning's going to want. He wants big, physical, fast hitters.
Like talking a little bit, and we'll get it. So lock in here because we will get into like our summer breakdown of this Oregon Ducks team, a team that I am extremely high on heading into the 2023 season. So we'll get into kind of a deeper look in the depth chart and how this team stacks up going into 2023. But looking roughly at this team heading into 2023, you got to feel so good for both sides of the football, but primarily this offense. I am so excited to watch. I mean, Bo Nix looked as comfortable as we've seen him in his whole college career. You know, want to know why? He has some receivers to work with on the outside, and he has a phenomenal offensive line in front of him, something he never got at Auburn. I can't wait to see Bo Nix second year in this offense be able to put up some early, like talk about early Heisman runner, like Heisman candidates. Like Bo Nix has to be at the top of the board here.
Yeah, and I don't think there's much doubt this Oregon's offense looked really good last year. I suspect it's going to be really good again. And you get a guy back like Troy Franklin and Trayshawn Holden now that situation's worked out and he's going to be there. You're going to have the wideouts. And I mean, at the end of the day, what they're going to need to do is figure out how to stop the pass because that's ultimately what prevented them from – you look at games that they could have won that would have tipped their season from looking like slightly disappointing to being like, man, we're like right there. You just give up a few less passing yards to Washington or even Utah like was able to pass the ball quite effectively against them. So it's like teams, those are the games that they just couldn't quite pull out that would have made their season look, I mean,
look a lot better.
What it was to like, man, we're right in the hunt. And it's going to come down to this defense and whether Lanning can fix it.
Yeah, and you know Dan Lanning saw the same thing you're describing. Goes out to the portal, gets a guy in Kyrie Jackson, who I no doubt recruited him out of JUCO when he was at Georgia, coming over from Alabama. Evan Williams, a guy who's played 5 years of college football. Tasheem Johnson coming over from Ole Miss. 3 guys in the secondary who are probably going to play meaningful snaps, if not 3 starters. This defense, I love the front seven. Like, and I think Justin Jacobs is a phenomenal get in the transfer portal at that linebacker spot. Jordan Birch, a former 5-star from South Carolina. You're going to see a lot of defensive linemen come to Oregon, quite frankly, because you look at the talent that he put out from Georgia into the NFL. A lot of people are looking at Dan Lanning, what he does with elite defensive linemen with those athletic tools. He develops them being first-round NFL draft picks. You're going to see a lot more of those guys come, but this offense, I mean, one of the best in the country. I think they retooled the offensive line, losing some guys like Alex Forsythe and TJ Bass, who played a lot of football for the Ducks. Josh Conley Jr., as much as that hurts me as a Michigan fan, he's starting at left tackle. You get the Rhode Island kid coming in at right tackle. Dill, we're going to get deeper into this Oregon team as we get into summer scouting, but you look across the college football landscape, there's not many teams that have a more complete roster in terms of just lack of holes at any position. You probably had the biggest hole is the secondary, losing a guy like Christian Gonzalez with it being kind of leaky last year. They go out and add 3 guys who started at their former schools. This Oregon team is very complete, and you got to think they're kind of comfortably a top 10 team heading into 2020.
Yeah, and that's it. If you can assume that Dan Lanning can just bring his brand of defensive football in like relatively quickly and reload it this year, that they're going to be tough. Because again, like, Oregon's always, even with the coaching transitions, they've had that athletic, fast offense right through. But it's where it's come, like what's prevented them from being that top dog team is not playing quite the defense you need. Now they have what I think Dan Lanning's got to be able to do is keep that identity on offense, play fast, have those athletes that they've always been able to do and play in space, but bring that defense along with it and play a little bit more of an SEC brand.
I remember Georgia going into the 2021 year, their first natty title year, and Kirby Smart's like, our biggest concerns are secondary. Like, we just don't know if we have the guys. Do you want to know what the number one like way you can stop a good passing attack is? Not necessarily getting the lockdown corners and safeties, but being able to get after the passer from the up front on the defensive line. And I think he did that well too. If you ask me, you look at the transfer portal and say, like, what is one of the players across the country that you're most excited to see? Jordan Birch. Because this is a guy that flashed the 5-star athleticism and traits that he had coming into South Carolina. Never quite put it together. If Jordan Birch puts it together, I would not be surprised if we're talking about a top 32 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. And no doubt that's what Dan Lanning wanted to do. You also have some young guys coming in as true freshmen that are also probably going to provide some juice on the defensive line. I I can't wait to watch this Oregon team in 2023. We're going to get more deeper into this roster, give you guys a little bit more of our takes once we get into the film in the summer. So lock in for that. But again, we just appreciate all the support you guys have shown. So again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Spring game coming up, I believe at the end of the month. They're late. We'll also preview that. So lock in for that. We appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.